Win one for the good guys.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers. We are free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Ultimate GM. That's the Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Use the promo code Locked On CFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a boost to your program. Begin coaching your legacy today. He's Jay Smith. I'm Jonah Williams. Michael Fasusi is an Oklahoma Sooner. The Oklahoma Sooners get the big commitment from the five-star offensive tackle out of Lewisville, Texas. Jay, this is a huge win for Bill Bedenbaugh and the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, you get a lot of people that's been talking about, wondering when we're going to land one of those elite players. Well, here you go, guys. We've got our Michael Fasusi, someone that we've been going after. And, with him, the big thing was the relationship with him and Bedenbaugh. It's right, because we all know over the last, 11, 12 years that Bedenbaugh has been at Oklahoma, he has produced a ton of draft picks. And of course, the last 2 years, he sent his left and his right tackle to the NFL with both right tackles going in the first round. We know that he knows how to coach the line. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, finding five stars that are ready to work the way he wants them to is not very easy to do, right? Because, they all come in a premium. So for him, Fasusi saw the opportunity to not only be able to go pro, but be able to be developed fully. He's going to make some good NIL money. But he is looking at the development aspect because everything about what Bedenbaugh does and the way we do it here at Oklahoma was really intriguing to him and the family.
There's a lot of talk about Oklahoma doesn't develop five stars. Well, it takes more than just a rating to be developed. You have to have a want to and a desire. And it's clear that Michael Fasusi is coming to Oklahoma ready to work. Like, that's what he said, right? Let's work. And I know a lot of prospects say that, but this is a dude and a family that say what they mean. You're not mincing words with Michael Fasusi. He's a man of very little words. You didn't see a whole lot of social media presence. You didn't see a whole lot of big talk throughout the whole recruiting process. Somebody that I was talking to mentioned it's just been drama free. And that's the best way to describe it. Very low drama for a five-star prospect, which is kind of refreshing, actually. This is just a dude that went about his business, went about the process. And here we are. We got a commitment and it's likely done. Very few players flip from Oklahoma during the Brent Venables era. So I'm going to chalk this one up. I'm going to write him down in pen. We're not to signing day, but that's just 4 months away. He wanted to have it done on August 21. It's a big time day for him and his family as it recognizes the anniversary of them immigrating to the U.S., a Nigerian family coming to the U.S. And that's huge for them and their family. And also Bill Bedenbaugh's birthday. I saw you mention not coincidental, probably not. Maybe providential?
I think not.
Yeah, providential? Probably. Some of these things just work out. It's big, important dates for both guys. But as a player, Jay, what do you see when you turn on the film and watch Michael Fasusi?
Big, fast, strong, someone that can move, nimble. Yeah, everything about his game is exactly what Bill Bedenbaugh is looking for in a player. And as you mentioned before, it was a drama-free recruiting cycle. How often do you see that with five stars? Right? The only drama that was drawn up was by fans creating their own random drama of, there's no way he's coming here. There's no way he's going to this school. He's chasing the money.
Yeah.
None of that was true. It was just him saying, I'm going to commit on this date. And that's it. You didn't hear no back and forth, nothing, which I love. And so in his game, playing at left tackle, you'll have him. And it's funny because his dad, because Sean Hutton's dad, J.D. Hutton, had jumped in our watch party earlier yesterday when he committed. And what was intriguing about that, he was talking about how they're looking to move Sean to the left guard. That way the two captains can play together. Imagine Hutton right there next to Fasusi playing in high school and then coming to college together. That's a huge deal because the biggest aspect of running offensive line is what? Chemistry, right? being a cohesive unit and being able to move at the same time and know when to pick up certain blockers, being there to help each other. That's the most critical component. And those two guys will be walking in with that. And so just watching him move at his size, it's what, 6'6", 300 plus. I think 307 is what he has himself listed right now. He's a big boy. And a picture of him and Daniel Akinkumi was next to each other. I'm like, I didn't realize that Akinkumi was not that big, but he still is, because Fasusi is just that mammoth of a human being.
Yeah, he's definitely got the NFL size that you're looking for. Is a guy that does move really, really well. And now Oklahoma's got two really, really talented offensive tackles as a part of this 2025 recruiting class, kind of doing what they did in the 2024 class, but on the other side of the line of scrimmage. When you add Michael Fasusi, Ryan Fogier, Owen Hollenbeck, and Darius Afalava, I mean, that's a really, really good group of players. I know Afalava and Hollenbeck are only 3-star players, but they're really good interior offensive linemen. And I think they're going to make a big impact at Oklahoma due to their size, their strength, their presence on the interior. But Bill Beatonbow, man, just continues to do work. You know, so much has been said about the inability to close on a 5-star. And I know Oklahoma was in on a lot of these recruiting battles. The fact that they were in the mix for Ty Haywood, for Lamont Rogers, they are still in the mix for Andrew Babalola. They've been in the mix on all these guys. You get one, that's great. If you would have gotten more, that'd have been just icing on the cake. But he was able to get his guy, much like Todd Bates. There was a ton of criticism and a ton of critiques being thrown out there about Todd Bates in the 2024 cycle. Why can't they land a 5-star? Why didn't they get David Hicks? Blah, 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 blah. Well, they got David Stone. They got Jaden Jackson. They added Nigel Smith. And kind of all of that narrative went away. Not that Todd Bates had anything to prove to anybody, because he's been one of the best defensive tackles coach in the last 10 years. Same with Bill Beatonbow. He had nothing to prove to anybody about his ability to coach, develop, recruit.
Right.
But you add this guy, and it's absolutely huge for him.
Yeah, Michael Fasusi was our David Stone recruitment of this cycle, 100%. Right. And he committed roughly 360 days, after Stone did, because Stone's commitment was on the 26th of August. This was on the 21st. So roughly 5 days away from each other. And again, I mean, Stone was a little bit more drama-ish, right? Because, I mean, he's David Stone. He's pretty animated human being, and not purposely making it dramatic, but at the same time, he was a very much coveted crown jewel for your class. Now you have Fasusi doing the exact same thing. So shout out to Bill Beatonbow, doing, like you said, the opposite of what Todd Bates did. The next year we get the offensive lineman. This was probably up there in one of his top 3 classes he's had since he's been here. I mean, that 19 class was pretty star-studded. It didn't pan out the way we wanted, but, that also was in the perfect lineup of when we started to switch up, strength coaches. Now that we've got a guy that's, an SEC type of strength coach, Jay Schmidt. I anticipate these offensive linemen developing even better. They're going to get stronger. They're going to be faster. They're going to be built to last. Unfortunately, fall camp, people get nicked up, but I think that we're going to be a lot better than what you've seen in the past. Yeah, and the Oklahoma Sooners now have just a few top targets that they're looking at. We're going to discuss that quickly after the break. We'll also get into a little bit of what Colin Cowherd has done to unite all of the content creators, much like Captain America called out the Avengers. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the poolside, snacks for the kids. What do these have in common? You're probably buying a ton this summer, this fall, but don't stress about the cost. Use Ibata and get cash back on all of your purchases when you stock up on all of your summer essentials. Ibata is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop, earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibata user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, the flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving.
You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It's time you joined the over 50 million users who use Ibata to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibata is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibata by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibata app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONCollege for Ibata. College football is back, and it's not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. You can get it all from Locked On's stable of college experts by subscribing to the Locked On College Football Podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoff? What teams will cause chaos in their new conferences? Everything you need to know all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On College Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, before we get into Colin Cowherd uniting all content creators of Oklahoma fandom, let's discuss where Oklahoma's at on the recruiting trail now. They've got 23 commitments in the cycle. You talked about Sean Hutton, the preferred walk-on that they've added as well. Where do they go from here?
So on the list right now, you still got Christian Jones, the linebacker out of Nebraska. He had mentioned in a interview I saw not too long ago that he's looking to make his decision around the second or third game of the season. He's not in a big rush, but it feels like he's really trying to evaluate if Nebraska is going to actually be any good. Everybody has a heavy lean towards Oklahoma today, but if Nebraska starts off pretty strong, I think they may have a chance to actually push for him, right? And to me, that means that Oklahoma's going to turn their attention to a few other players, right? I know that we have a few others that we're really, keyed in on. You still got Andrew Babalola, who has not made a decision yet. He was actually supposed to make a decision at the beginning of the month, and it seems like the Fasusi date kind of made him push it back. And so now Babalola is just in limbo. Supposed to happen before his season starts, but nobody knows when that's actually going to be, right? He hasn't given anything official, but I know Oklahoma's still in the mix, battling with like Michigan as well as Stanford on who's going to get a service. I heard that Auburn, I think Steve Wiltfong over at On 3 mentioned that Auburn is starting to kind of, tap in there and ask some questions and see if it can get his attention, but he's probably going to end up one of the northern plays. He's going to either end up in Michigan or probably Stanford, but I think Oklahoma still has a puncher's chance to go after him. Besides that, you got Jonah Williams, the safety that we were coveting at the beginning of the year. Seemed like we were like the favorite for it for a while, and I guess the crystal balls may have scared him away. When he dropped his top 5, we weren't in that one, but rumor has it we're still in conversation with him or whatnot. I think he ends up playing baseball, though. Like the word around the streets is he's really good at baseball, but he doesn't supposedly take baseball super seriously. I don't know which one it is. He's just probably just an amazing athlete and just does it because it's fun. Yeah. He may want to just do football, but his recruitment's up in the air. I'm sensing that he's going to play 2 sports. I wonder if Skip can get in there and, give him a call again about 2-Sport U and say, hey, you want to come here. So that's really the bigger ones that Oklahoma has left. We're probably going to put a bow on this 25 class very soon. Now, do not be surprised if Oklahoma tries to flip 1 or 2 people. I think there are some targets out there. I'm just waiting to see who those are and what we actually are looking for. But right now, this class is probably done.
Is there a position that you look at and you're like, I think Oklahoma would be wise to try and add more of this?
I'd say offensive line still. I think we probably could use an additional 1 or 2 just to make sure that we have that competitive depth in order to, go through it and deal with the SEC, right? We bring in a Branson Hickman that helped with that depth at the center position, and now everybody's all banged up. Now, granted, BV said that he doesn't expect anybody to miss time as far as football time, as far as game time, but practice-wise, they're not able to practice as much. They're, nicked up and bruised. So, yeah, it's good to have those additional bodies, especially at the offensive line. I think offensive line is probably the one. I think we're fine at linebacker, to be absolutely honest. I think we've got if anything, 26. We have to go very heavy on linebackers because at that point you should see at least 3 people start to fall off, going pro and all of that because we'll start to age out then. So to me, offensive line, I'd like to get some more players there just to make sure that we have a good stable.
Yeah, you can never have enough offensive line depth as we're seeing this fall camp, and as we're seeing with the turnover of the offensive line altogether. Having those depth pieces matters. Now let's talk Colin Cowherd. We talked a little bit about it on our show yesterday, but it seems like everybody's coming to Oklahoma's defense a little bit, which seems a little bit odd there, Jay. I gotta admit, it's not often that you see guys like Joel Klatt and JD Piquel, and obviously Teddy and Gabe from the Oklahoma Breakdown are going to have Oklahoma's back on all things. But yeah, the national analysts are coming together to kind of put Colin Cowherd in his place a bit.
Yeah, and I in a way feel bad for Colin because this was a very old take, and he did correct himself like as soon as the season went down and he saw what we did to Texas. He was kind of just like, all right, I may have misspoke on some of this stuff, but everybody's rehashing it. The Texas fans feel the need to say, you guys are going to be the next Nebraska, even though statistically they were the closest thing to Nebraska at the time. They were it. They just have spurts of being really good. I mean, it's no shade to them. I'm just speaking facts here, right? But it was funny seeing JD Piquel go in because, Piquel gave us a 6-6 record. He feels like year one's not going to be very fruitful, but he does feel like year 2 and 3 and long term, Oklahoma's in a good spot. He changed his tune a little bit there. Then, of course, Josh Pate felt like he needed to put everybody in place and explained immediately, like we talked about yesterday, about, no, Oklahoma's been recruiting at a very high level, and it feels like those that don't pay attention what's actually going on, like in the recruiting world as well as in the game world, they're missing on what actually is happening. And then Joel Klatt, which I love Klatt because he always goes on Cowherd on the herd, and he corrects Colin like right there in real time. So he's our best fact checker. His endorsements have gotten more and more. He really is feeling what Oklahoma and what Brent Venables is building here in Norman.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he just says Oklahoma is Oklahoma. The expectations are high at Oklahoma. You don't win 50 conference championships, 7 national championships, 14 conference championships since the year 2000 without having high expectations and a lot of pride. And that's Oklahoma. Josh Pate mentioned the stability that they have in the administration and the vision that they have in the administration to be able to effectively contend and compete on a year in, year out basis. Joe Klatt even talked about Jackson Arnold and what they have at wide receiver. A lot of people want to try to assume Jackson Arnold is exactly who he was in the Alamo Bowl. Now, is he going to throw for 350 passing yards every game? Probably not. But he's not going to be throwing 3 interceptions every game and turning the ball over 4 times. That's not going to happen.
Unless you're on college football 25.
Unless you're John playing college football 25. It's hard. It's really hard to complete a pass in that game. And so it's funny to see, Joel Klatt like come into Oklahoma's aid. Now, I will say he was also sitting there trying to say, let's not lower expectations for Oklahoma either.
No.
Whether it's the schedule or the conference, whatever it is, the expectations at Oklahoma are high, and the expectation is to contend for championships. And I totally agree with him on that. I feel like I've heard Gabe say the same thing on different national platforms where they asked what the expectations are for Oklahoma going into the SEC. And he said, contend for the conference title and contend for a national title. The expectations don't change, whether your schedule's easy or tough. Oklahoma's got one thing on its mind. And Klatt also said the thing that I said on our show yesterday. If Oklahoma can go 3-3 against Tennessee, Ole Miss, Texas, Missouri, Alabama, and LSU, you split those 3 games, and there's a really good chance that you can still make the playoff as a 9-3 team. Now, 9 wins, that's not Oklahoma's standard. Oklahoma's standard is double-digit wins and being in contention for a college football playoff spot, a conference title game spot. But if you get to that threshold, you'll have a really, really strong case as maybe the only 9-win team to actually get in. But Oklahoma could be in for a whole lot more this year.
Yeah, we can contend, especially if we're riding heavily on the defense, right? You've heard me say this numerous times, and that's the thing that I lean heavy on is my expectation is Oklahoma's going to have the defense basically carry this team, right? And as you talked about before with Jackson Arnold and the way that he played against Arizona, I mean, he did well enough. He made the young players some mistakes, but he also did, some really good things. But this offense is probably going to fit him a lot better, especially because Klatt, like I said, Klatt mentioned this in his video that His skill set is built perfectly for the skills guys we have. And the good thing is we got veteran skills guys who's been there with him for at least a year that he's been able to work with, right? Besides Deion Burks, everybody else been around. And so far, it looks like him and Deion Burks has become a great connection, adding him with J.J. Hester, along with, of course, Nick and everything else. It appears that we have all the pieces around him to make him successful. He's just going to have to make sure that he takes his time and does it. So, to me, just as Clad said, conference championship, playoff is the expectation. That's the standard. Our goal is to win a bunch of games in this conference and prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, our guy Damian Parson over at Locked On NFL Draft was highlighting Nick Anderson and his ability to win deep with the size that he's got at 6'4", 215, and posted a video of Nick Anderson winning deep and then having to come back for the football because Dylan Gabriel underthrew him again. And it just made me so much more excited for what Jackson Arnold brings to the table, because all those underthrows that we saw under Dylan Gabriel, as great as he was, Dylan Gabriel was fantastic. He did a great job for Oklahoma. He could not throw the deep ball. Well, you got a lot of dudes that can run the deep routes and win deep. Nick Anderson, Angelo Anthony, Deion Burks, and that's going to unlock a whole different element of this offense that Jackson Arnold is going to thrive in. Paul Finebaum, my man, had some things to say about Oklahoma State in relation to what Mike Gundy said about NIL. We're going to discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Hey, Locked On Sooner fans. I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners? Maybe you want to be the Oregon Ducks, Tennessee Volunteers, Alabama Crimson Tide. You can do that, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to oversee training camps as well as handling school scholarships. You control every critical detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle all that pressure? I'm a little stressed out thinking about it, but here's what I really love about the game, though. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. John, I know that you've actually checked the game out, right?
Yeah, it's a great way to just sim through a season without actually having to sit and play the game. And the computer is not going to give you anything. You're going to have to actually develop guys, recruit well, and develop their strength and conditioning to actually make them functional and build your program.
Yeah, see, gives you the feel of college football 25 without having a controller, because you can do it all on your phone. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as well as you want and whenever you want. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Sooner fans. Use the promo code Locked On College Football CFB, all caps, inside the game store, and receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look them up in the App Store. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today.
Noted SEC homer Paul Finebaum had some comments about Mike Gundy. Pure homer, and the Oklahoma State Cowboys relative to what Mike Gundy was saying about NIL and how people should quit calling him about trying to get more money for their players. And it kind of took the internet by storm. Let me just first say this before we get to Paul Finebaum's comments, and before Oklahoma State fans try to come out here and ream me for fighting with Mike Gundy. I agree with Mike Gundy. There's a time for negotiations. There's a time for football. And there comes a point in time, and you see this in the NFL, where guys will shut down negotiations once the season starts, whether they're going to be on the 1-year deal or they're going to be, they got 2 years left on their contract. When the season starts, they're ready to play football. You see it in high school. We just talked about Michael Fasusi's commitment. He wanted to commit before high school, before his final season. You see that all over the place. Guys want to get their recruitment done before their senior season starts so they can just focus on football. So I don't disagree one bit with what Mike Gundy had to say, but here's what Paul Finebaum had to say. He said that program's already in enough trouble because losing Oklahoma from the Big 12 is a big blow to Oklahoma State's self-worth.
Yikes.
I've been to Stillwater. It's an interesting place to go to a game. But why in the world would you go play for Mike Gundy when you can play in Norman for a coach who understands where college football is today? Ooh. Jay, the floor is yours.
I mean, Oklahoma State's doing the barcode thing on the back of helmets, right? So It's going to be kind of interesting to see what that looks like when you get a touchdown.
Mike Gundy is pro NIL.
It sounds like it, right? I mean, in Gundy's defense, in which I hate to defend, he's 100% right on calling them about the collective once the season starts. Shout out to Gabe and Teddy. They kind of talked about this on their show on Oklahoma Breakdown because they're 100% correct. There are car dealerships, there are restaurants, there's all kinds of stuff around Stillwater that you can go hit up to get more money if you want to get a deal done. Yeah. Right. You can hit up local podcasts and say, hey, we want to, be able to come on an interview for a payment. You can do all of that stuff. That stuff is available. Just don't go to the collectives because they ain't going to give you no money. Because NIL is about name, image, and likeness. Go do some marketing deals. Nothing wrong with that. If you can get a national brand to do it, the agent can get with national brands. Do that. It's available. But I get what Gundy's trying to say with that. Now, on Finebaum's comment, the fascinating thing behind that is, I mean, how much, John, do you believe that Oklahoma State's going to be kind of reliant on Oklahoma, especially when it comes to tourism? Because I know you made a comment about that a while back, and a lot of people had some things to say. And they were all over that post. I think it's got over 100,000 views so far.
Yeah, so I don't know, a couple years back, a year ago, said something on Twitter about how the Stillwater economy might miss Oklahoma coming to town. And listen, they sold out all their games. Congrats to the Oklahoma State fan base and to Stillwater and all that. They're going to be a fine football town. Mm-hmm. They are a great college football town. They'll do great numbers. I think where Finebaum's a little bit off on this is there's no difference, I don't think, for Oklahoma State with Oklahoma in the conference or out of the conference. I think, if anything, maybe Oklahoma State gets a bit of the boost on the recruiting trail because, and even over the last 3 years, because they beat Oklahoma twice in the last 3 years. So they do get a bit of a boost with Oklahoma leaving because now they have a chance to kind of be a power in the Big 12, and they're my pick to win the Big 12 in 2024. We'll do our conference, picks on tomorrow's show, but you've got stability in Mike Gundy, who's had a lot of success, even though there haven't been many Big 12 titles. There haven't been any college football playoff appearances. You could make an argument they deserved to be in the BCS championship game more than a decade ago, and the committee found a way to put Bama in that slot. But I mean, he's been really, really good. There's very few coaches that have the sustained track record that Mike Gundy has. So I don't think this really changes much for Oklahoma State, except you just don't have Bedlam, And I'm not going to sit here and say that Stillwater. Listen, I'll eat my words. I'll eat my tweet that Stillwater will suffer because Oklahoma fans won't be going to Stillwater every other year. That's fine. I'll eat that tweet. I just want Bedlam. That's really where I come from in all of this, is I think having those regional rivalries, even if Oklahoma State's not Oklahoma's top rival, Bedlam is an important game for the fabric of local college football, for this region's college football. I'm going to miss not having Bedlam this year. I know a lot of Oklahoma fans don't care. They say they don't care. That's fine. But as somebody who kind of grew up mostly just as a college football fan before I became an Oklahoma fan, I love in-state rivalries. I love them. Texas A&M. I loved watching that game. Dat win and going up against Ricky Williams. Like, that was such a phenomenal matchup. Like, I loved the idea of Bedlam. I loved, the Florida State, Miami, all those games that go on all the time, whether they're in the same conference or not. I love that South Carolina and Clemson play each other every year, whether they're in the same conference or not. I was ecstatic when Pitt and West Virginia reunited for the backyard brawl.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. And that's not an in-state. That's like 90 miles away.
Right. Just like us.
Yes.
And
these regional rivalries, they matter. And listen, Stillwater's going to be just fine. Again, they'll be just fine. But for me, the college football fan, I want Bedlam back.
And I get where you're going with that, right? Me, I'm on the fence of, I like the regionalness of college football. That's what makes college football so much fun, is having that regional feel and having that rivalry where you go to work with the people that are fans of the
Yes.
opposite team. Like that's the best part about like the Iron Bowl and
Mhm.
and Bedlam, and honestly, in a way, Red River, right? Even though
Yep.
it's across the border, you still have Oklahoma people that live in North Texas because we own North Texas. That's our land technically. And then you've got Texas people that come to Oklahoma, for some,
Mhm.
reason or whatnot. But you can jab at them at work when you
Mhm.
see each other post game, pre game. Like everybody goes back and forth on social media right now, but it's even better when you can do it in person. So I
Oh yeah.
get where that is missed. I don't know if, I guess that this is my question is going to be is how well traveled will these Big 12 teams be when it comes to coming to Oklahoma? That's what
Yeah.
I'm curious about.
Yeah. I mean, I think like teams like Utah, BYU, they'll travel well. Will Cincy? Does Baylor? I don't know. UCF. UCF's got one of the largest enrollments of all Big 12 teams. I think their enrollment is something like 50, 60,000 at
Yep.
their university. So it's by far the largest enrollment. So they have a huge, huge fan following. Will they travel? That's a big question. But
That's the question.
but again, I think to me, and this might get a lot of hate and a lot of a lot of people angry with me.
Yes.
I think the Big 12 kind of represents a lot of what college football is, right? It's these small towns like Ames, Morgantown, Lawrence, Manhattan, Stillwater, Provo, Salt.
Provo's gonna be nice.
It's these small college towns that don't have anything else going on. USC fans, they don't have anything else going on, making the whole week and especially the weekend all about college football. The Big 12 will thrive regardless of what the future of college football looks like because of that. Yeah. They are much more like the SEC, the Big 10 than the Pac-12. The Pac-12 fell apart because you're in a region that people just don't care. They care in the Big 12. And so whether or not, not having Bedlam will affect Stillwater or not, who knows? I'm not an economist. I'm not part of the local government there. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is the Big 12 has a bunch of passionate fan bases, and Stillwater and Oklahoma State is one of those, that it's going to continue to do well. And as somebody who, again, grew up on Big 12 football as a teenager in college, I'm still kind of rooting for the Big 12 to be good. Now, it's a much different conference than what it was in 1997 when I moved to Texas and started watching Big 12 football on Saturdays. But it's still Big 12 football. And it's still, again, a game dominated by these college towns.
That's true. That's true. Hey, you're better than me, though. I'm just, Big 12, Big 12, whatever. I do want to see what Colorado does, right? I've been a Deion Sanders fan since I was a kid, and so I'm really intrigued on what product he puts out there on the field. So, but everybody else, well, I guess we did pass the mantle to Utah.
Yeah. Well, so back, and this is going on, and we should be wrapping up the show, but back when I was just a college football fan, before I met my wife, who is an OU alum times 2, and I just loved watching college football. True. I remember Colorado, Nebraska in the Big 12, late in the season, big time matchup. And Andre Gerard, former Dallas Cowboy great Andre Gerard, just shoving a Nebraska defensive lineman through the back of the end zone up into the pylon in the back wall, like up against the pads. Like, I was loving Big 12 football, regardless of the team, because it was just great football. It was fun to watch. It was balanced. You had physicality. You had spread offenses. You had all of it. You had great run games. Anyway, again, going long-winded, just love Big 12 football. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Make sure you email us at lockedonsooners@gmail.com with all of your hate mail based on this segment. You can tag us and follow us at Locked On Sooners on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, or X/Twitter. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself, personal account at John9 Williams. Them DMs are open, so you can hit me up there as well. I won't screenshot and post them. It's a safe place.
I will.
Jay might, but it's a safe place with me. You can vent all your frustrations about everything I said in the last 12 minutes about that. Comment in the YouTube section. How much do you hate the Big 12? Are you looking forward to its demise? Or do you think that the Big 12 will be just fine like I do and look forward to watching it on Saturdays, regardless of Oklahoma's affiliation with the Big 12? Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that notification bell over there to let you know when new episodes drop. You can join us in the Locked On Sooners Insider Program by texting SEC 2024 to 405-817-6711. And you can get 25% off your first month after a 2-week free trial period. And that's where you can shoot us messages. You can interact with us. You can answer some of our questions. You can send us mailbag questions of your own, topics you'd like to hear us discuss here on Locked On Sooners. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll catch you then. Boomer
Sooner.